2020, 7:30 p.m. I call this meeting of the Needham Design Review Board to order. I'm Mark Lusing, the board chair. I'd like to confirm that all members and applicants expected on the agenda are present and can hear me. So when I call out your name or the project, please respond. Robert Dermody.
Here.
Nelson Hammer. Nelson, do you have audio? All right, we don't have Nelson yet. Chad Riley.
Here.
Deborah Robinson. Yes, you have to be out loud, Deborah, for the record.
Can you hear me?
Is there sound?
You have to respond verbally, Deborah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Nelson.
Okay, good.
Sorry. Deborah. Deborah? I can hear you, Deborah. Do you have your audio sound up? And also attending is our staff person, Rana Dorfer.
Present.
Deborah, can you hear us? Deborah.
I don't have any sound. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I the only one?
Yes.
I can hear her.
Yeah, I can hear her. She can't hear us. She can't hear us.
If someone has her number, they can text her to check the audio on her computer. She might just have
Right.
herself muted somehow.
All right, I'll go through the applicants while she tries to get connected. U.S. Storage Center, 540 Hillside.
Anna here.
Could you say your full name, please, Anna?
Yep, Anna Halleck.
Okay. The Coldwell Banker Realty, 1498 Highland Ave.
Scott Clement with Sign Design.
Thank you. And
Thomas Acosta with Visual Graphics.
okay. Home Kitchen, 324 Chestnut Street.
Yes, Bryn Robinson from Boston Sign.
Okay. Thank you. Where'd Deborah go? So Deborah's trying to start over. I think she is.
Oh, okay. What did you do?
I just said the same assistant.
Can you hear us, Deborah?
Same assistant. Okay. All right.
Hi.
Deborah, can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. So Deborah's connected, Rana. So good evening. Welcome to this open meeting of the Needham Design Review Board, which is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth, due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. We've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows public bodies to meet remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along. For this meeting, the Needham Design Review Board is convening by Zoom app as posted on the town's website, the Design Review Board page, identifying how the public may join. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. DRB meetings typically do not require allowing public comment. So we will mostly be speaking with the applicants. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, that some attendees are participating by video conference. Please be aware other people may see you, and take care not to screen share your computer unless it's intentional. Anything you broadcast could be captured by the recording. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. And please remember to speak clearly so that we can get accurate minutes. All the supporting materials have been provided to this body and are available on the town's website. Public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Basic procedures for tonight's meeting. I will introduce each applicant on the agenda. After they conclude their presentation, I will go through and ask members for if they have questions or comments, and we will have a discussion by that. Please wait until I call on you to speak and state your name when first speaking. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. At the end of the meeting, those seeking approval for signs, the sign will be either approved as noted, or denied. We will mail you two copies of a stamped set of documents with the approval and any notations about the conditions that we might apply to your application. And you can keep one for your records, and that's the one you would use to submit to the building department for your building permit for the sign installation. So the last thing I want to do is make sure you would confirm the address where you want the documents sent after we're at the end of our discussion with you. So we'll start with the agenda. I did look through the agenda, and we do have one informal session for the U.S. Self-Storage Center on Hillside Ave. That could turn into a somewhat lengthy discussion compared to the other two applications. So out of consideration for allowing people to have a nice summer evening if they can, I'm going to hold the first item on the agenda to the end and start first with Coldwell Banker Realty, 1498 Highland Avenue. So Thomas, you please go ahead. And for the board members, that's the documents you want to get now are to look at the Coldwell Banker application.
Yeah, I will defer to Scott to do the presentation. Scott Clement.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Scott Clement with Sign Design. We are looking at the property at 1498 Highland Ave, and essentially looking to put up Coldwell Banker's branding. It's a non-lit aluminum frame sign with dimensional lettering. Per the layout, I'm assuming everyone has the layout on the board.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we do. It was sent to us. We all have the package.
Okay, great. So essentially it's 26, almost 26 and a half square foot sign, falling in the same height as the adjacent tenants to the left and to the right, and appears to go well with the other signage on the building.
All right, we'll start with members' questions or comments. Bob Dermody, any questions?
No specific questions. I would just offer a compliment to the applicant that it's a clean sign. It's not cluttered, so I think that's acceptable. Thank you.
Okay, Nelson? Nelson, any comments or questions?
Sorry. Now can you hear me?
Yes.
I agree with Bob. Everything is fine as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Chad?
Likewise, I think the only thing that I'm looking at is certainly from the rendering, the letters look like they're in keeping or even slightly smaller than the adjacent letters, but usually we look to have a dimension for the capital letters. So do you happen to know the height of the letters on the sign?
I don't actually have that spec. I know the overall height is 28. Tom, you have it?
Yep, I'm pulling it up right now. My letter height is approximately 5.5 to 6 inches on the Coldwell Banker Realty letters.
Thank you. No other questions?
Deborah?
Nope, sorry, no comment.
Okay. Steve is not connected. Okay. I guess this, I would ask the same question we asked last week of an applicant on the other side of the town square. Are 6-inch letters too small for that?
I agree, Mark. That's a fair question.
We're not going to make you make them higher, but it's something we raised because I think my memory of the adjacent signs, the black sheep are probably about 9 or 10. And the Lisa's is even bigger, but less. They're saying less. But so it's
I'm looking at the photograph of Crosby Jewelers, Coldwell Banker, and Black Sheep, and although the lettering is smaller, the contrast between the white and the blue is enough so that I don't have any problem reading it from what looks to be 20, 30 feet away. So although the letter's smaller, I think it's fine and quite legible.
okay.
I
Okay.
think the overall size of the sign looks to be a little over 26 square feet, so it's certainly within keeping. I would say that the height is fine, but if they elected to go with a slightly bigger font, they could make for they could increase the 136-inch dimension, go with a slightly longer sign.
The logo and the letters are a proportional scale that has to be maintained from the CB and the North Star to the Coldwell Bankers. So we can adjust. I can adjust it a little longer, but I don't want to have to go through another review if we increase the length of the sign. So the client was happy with this scale. If you guys are okay with it, you just continue as is.
Okay. We just wanted to give you the option if you were thinking about it. Right. So I don't see any conditions at this point unless someone wants to say something. So I would take a motion to approve the Coldwell Banker sign for 1498 Highland Avenue as submitted.
So moved.
Seconded.
Right.
Nope.
I will
Yeah,
do
seconded.
a
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
All right. So
I will formally move to accept the sign proposal as proposed.
Seconded.
thank you. All right. So we'll do a roll call vote, please. Robert Dermody,
Aye.
Nelson Hammer,
Approve.
Chad Riley,
Approve.
Deborah Robinson. Deborah Robinson.
Oh, sorry, approved.
And the chair approves. So it's unanimous. So thank you again. Let me confirm the address to send the documents back, please.
Could send it to Sign Design at 170 Liberty Street in Brockton, Mass.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Me too.
Okay, the next application is for Home Kitchen Inc. Applying for signage at 324 Chestnut Street. There are images in the package of both photoshopped onto the building, some detail on the sign, and they're also wanting to, there is a compound sign on that site that they will also want to change the panel on that sign. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Okay, thank you. So yes, we want to put a sign up using the existing aluminum frame structure that's on the building. And You can see it rendered on the building. It's fitting within the existing frame. And what we plan to do, instead of just putting white letters up there, we wanted to do something a little more interesting. And we are choosing to put a cloud, we call it a cloud backer, behind the lettering. So we would have a white contour cut shape that goes around the perimeter of the lettering, and then we'd have 1/2-inch thick dimensional letters applied to that. So we'd have their logo basically is black letters with the food cart in full color to the left. So to keep the letters black, we wanted to put that cloud perimeter cut shape behind it instead of just a box sign. So that's pretty much it for the sign on the building. And then the pylon sign out front, we would just change out the sign faces to look like the designs that we provided to you guys.
Okay, I'll start with the board questions. Chad, do you want to start it off? Why don't we want to do them one at a time? Let's do the building first, and then we'll come around on the second one, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I appreciate the desire to do something a little more different and interesting instead of just kind of a plain boring sign. I think my main question is how legible the text is going to be. I wonder a little bit if it's the kind of thing that looks good on stationery, but on the building, I wonder how easy it'll be to read the home kitchen lettering. I wouldn't necessarily oppose the sign for it, but it's from the interest of the business and identifying the business, which really is the primary purpose of the sign. It's just an observation.
Right. Okay. Well, this is the font and part of their logo that our client has asked us to use. I think driving up and down the street, you'll see the signs on the pylon with the black background, the opaque background, and the letters being white. I think the contrast is there for you to see it driving up and down the street. And then as you turn into the plaza there, I believe you'll certainly see it from, you can only really see it from one side when you approach anyway. But the pylon, you do see it from both sides. So I believe that you will see it, although I do understand it is not a plain block letter. But I think my client, that's the font they would like to use. And I guess you could kind of say the same for Delaria. That's a couple stores down. Excuse me. Their script is maybe not the most legible, but that's part of their logo and their identity.
Okay, so you're comfortable with it since it's in the parking lot and your street identification is made another way?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sorry, one sec. Deborah, you have any questions?
So the height of this is dictated just by the existing frame? Because it's, when I'm looking at the photograph with the sign photoshopped in, it's higher than the Elizabeth Grady next door. It's kind of hard to see relative to the other signs, but you're saying you're just putting it where whatever was there previously
Yes,
was on this frame?
That's correct. Yeah, we definitely didn't want to mess with the frame since it was all flashed in and all part of the roof right there. Didn't want to open up that can of worms. And it looks like it had been used a couple times before, perhaps, certainly at least once before. So yeah, we were trying to.
So what was here previously?
I'm not sure, but you could see that they were.
It's gone, whatever it was.
Prelude.
It was Prelude.
The gift shop.
So is this Photoshop accurate where this sign is pretty much centered in the green roof? And it's a little bit higher than the other ones?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that we've been doing on that building historically is that we've had all the signage sitting down right above that fascia piece instead of kind of up in the middle of that roof. It's a little dicey on our bylaw because you're not allowed to put signs on a roof per se. And this, while this is not the roof of the building, it's a mansard roof, and
Right.
the definition is tough. But we've realized that there's nothing else they can do in this building, so we've allowed them. But we have tried to stay consistent about keeping them, you know, a couple inches above that soffit. Is that something? Could you drop this down and still use that frame, or modify any, or add some pieces to that frame so that you could kind of keep that same horizontal line?
I suppose. I guess I'm curious now to see what was there before.
It was a plain lettered sign similar to
Right.
a different font, but it was like Elizabeth Grady, and it just sat on that same line.
Right. Yeah, I understand. Well, yeah, I mean, we were, like I said, we're trying to use what was there. I understand your concerns. So I was actually going to try to Google it right now to see if the old sign was riding high too. Does anybody?
I'm on a Google View Maps. This is Bob Dermody speaking right now, and the image is dated of August of 2019. It shows no sign, but it does show the framework. And if I can keep going here, Mark, just quickly. Thanks. So I want to echo both of the concerns that have been brought up so far by my colleagues. One, I do find, I understand companies and fonts, but I think Chad's comment is valid. I find the font extremely difficult to read. Granted, this is a parking lot, so they're not speeding through here. So I think that needs to be thought about. And then also, I think we always, in any applicant, have to be careful when things are photoshopped in. It's never the same. It's just, it's helpful, but it's not real. And I too noticed right away that it's much higher than all the other signs. And my hope is that given the existing structural framework present on the building, that you can take this sign and then just adjust it, because in the rendering given, if that's what we're to go by, it's too high.
Right.
So I would like that to be considered, please. If you look at the others, and your comments well taken about the Delaria font, I would agree with you there. But if you look now just at the height, there is some consistency there. And this one looks too high as presented. So that's a concern for me.
Fair point. I understand. I would have to look at it and see how that would be able to happen. Because when the, if you see the section drawing that we gave you guys.
Yes.
I will scroll to it.
Yeah, you'll see on the right side, you'll see
To the right of the sign, the dimension sign sample, Bob.
Number 2, side view, proposed sign. Yeah.
you can see
Plenty
the
of room to lower it according to that.
Well, lowering it, like I said before, I'm not looking to dismantle the structure that's up there, because it is kind of integrated into the roof.
Understood. Yep.
So lowering it, I don't know, that's a whole new can of worms. So,
but it appears to be attached to the vertical members.
Well, it's from the side, it shows the verticals. It's attached to the horizontal. If you look to the left, when you see the whole reading, the two horizontal 100 and, well, the sign's 182 inches wide, but you can see the rectangle. The rectangle is supposed to depict the frame, so it's attached to that, to the horizontals. So I'm just not so sure how you would. I mean, we might be able to lower it. So I'd have to look at that, but I understand your point, and I can see what I can do about that. But then as far as the font goes, are you asking my client to change his entire logo?
No, just providing a comment from a person who lives in town and also a board member. I find it difficult to read, period.
I don't disagree.
Yep.
So if I can overcome the positioning, are you guys okay with the font if my client is?
Yeah, I am personally. As a board member, I would say yes. But I think it's not clear on the section there what is existing and what is new material for the structure of the sign. So it's my hope that if you look, and that's something I would request, that be looked at again to lower the sign.
Fine. Okay. Fair point.
No, it's up here.
But let's get
Nelson,
some of my colleagues' thoughts too.
Nelson, any questions?
No questions. Comment though. I certainly echo my other colleagues' concern about legibility. It appears to me that the black lettering on the white background is less visible than the white letters on the black background, and I'm wondering if it's because of the irregularity of the white background on the larger sign. I understand that it's meant to cloud the image, but I think it clouds the legibility. And I'm wondering if it would be more legible if the background were to be more even rather than cutting into each of the letters. I don't know if anybody agrees with that.
I think the font would be more readable if it were white letters in a background that, you know, either no background and you're seeing the green roof through it like you are in the other signs, or something that would be a darker color. So I don't know, what is it, the color that's their logo as well, or just the font?
Both.
Well, one of the things we say often is that, you know, a graphic, a stationary graphic or sort of logo type elements, those don't always make good signs. My thinking here is that it can be a little, there are some legibility issues, but at some point that's kind of your choice. It's not an offensive sign. I mean, it's not making trouble, but I would agree with Bob and Chad that you do need to figure out a way to get it lower so that it's more in line with the other signage on the building.
Okay.
Because I'm looking at that section and there's that tube frame that you're attaching it to. You can slide it down on that, and if that's not quite enough and you need to add a couple of extensions down below, I would think you could weld those on and get an additional support that you need to get it down a little bit lower.
Right.
So that would be the only thing. I mean, we can talk about the font. I mean, it's our recommendation that you think about it, and we do this a lot. But if you think that that's, I mean, I think the saving grace for me in this situation is that it's facing a parking lot. It's not your main sign on a storefront driving down the street. So people already know they're looking for you when they come in here, and it's going to be legible enough for people. They're not going to walk into Elizabeth Grady looking for food. They're going to come to you.
Right.
So I think that's our point is that it's a little bit risky, but it's a risk you have to decide on. That's not bad enough that I would make it a condition of your approval.
I would propose giving them an option that if we end up approving it as is, or maybe with some comments about lowering the sign, that they have an option to reverse the dark lettering on a white background to go with white lettering on a dark background if they kind of think about it and choose. When I the point that was made about the white letter kind of popping off of the dark roof background, I could see it being a bit more legible if it was white lettering on a dark background, but you know, I could see giving the option to go either way.
I agree with that. Well, you can see it down below on the pylon signs. You've got the black background with the white, so that definitely,
yeah,
I would say has more contrast.
Okay.
And just from a owner perspective, we really appreciate your time and obviously the feedback. I think these are some good points to think about. And I will meet with Bryn after this meeting and, you know, in the next day or so to review what your comments have been, to just see if we can make those adjustments. And after all, we do want it to be more legible and make sure at least people are seeing the sign if we're going to spend all this money to have a nice sign up there. And we were just trying to be different from those signs actually look nicer on the graphics than they do in person. So we wanted something to be a little different and stand out in terms of the sign. So we went with the design that we have here.
Okay. So I think the condition of this one will give you the option of reversing out the letter and background light and that we would like you to lower it down so it's similar to the bottom of the other signs.
Okay.
Okay.
As close as you can get it is going to work the best for us.
Okay.
So then if we would turn to the pylon sign, the panel there, you're skirting our ability to deal with these when, again, the point is to identify a building, a business in its location. That's what our bylaw set up to do. And this talks, so the from our kitchen to yours is sort of why is that necessary, especially on a small sign. So I'm having a little trouble with that. I would like to hear from some of the other members again, if we could start with Chad.
Yeah, I would agree. I think what we have done sometimes is where a name is not really clear on what the business might be, that we sometimes will allow an additional word or two to help identify the nature of the business. So there's Delaria Salon or Prelude, and it does say gifts, jewelry, cards. So I could imagine possibly in looking at this sign, home kitchen, it's not exactly clear what the nature of the business is. So if there's something a little bit more descriptive of what the business is, then I think that more so than a logo or a kind of a tagline or something would be, I think, more appropriate if we were going to consider something beyond just the name of the business.
Okay.
Deborah?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
I guess I'll ask. I'm assuming it's a restaurant, but I'm not really.
It's a takeout restaurant, and almost the blue apron version of Indian cooking, where the food is already cooked and you basically heat it up. We have meal plans for the week and that sort of stuff. So that's what the purpose or our tagline is. So that hence from our kitchen to yours. But no, I get what you're saying, and we're happy to look at that as well, to change it to something that signifies more in line with the nature of the business rather than our slogan.
Bob, any comment?
Yes, and thank you for your comments and feedback as we discuss this. I'm not opposed to having additional information there. My concern is, and it's a challenge, I get it, but it's very long. From our kitchen to yours, it's 5 words. And, many of these that I think work better have the business name and then a much shorter, I'm not sure you can do it in 1 word, certainly, but a shorter phrase would be helpful as well, just for reading purposes, but also for visual clarity, because it looks crammed under. Home kitchen is very succinct, even if we still aren't there yet with the full, offering of your services. So I'm not sure I'm being helpful, but that's my feeling right now. If you needed something under there, desired something under there, if you could brainstorm with your colleagues, something shorter. I don't know if that's possible. And I do from our kitchen to yours is very clear, but it's very long.
Right. No, point well taken. Yeah,
Okay,
no, we'll reconvene on that.
Thank you. Those are my thoughts,
Sure.
Mark. Thanks.
Okay, Nelson?
I'll go one step further and say that I don't think any verbiage underneath the sign would be helpful on that on that sign there. I would prefer just to see the name of the company.
Yeah, well, I guess when I look at it, it is quite small, but that's not a big sign panel. It's competing with all the other businesses in there. The less confusing it is, the better. So I would sort of agree with Nelson and Bob that maybe you just, if there's a way to say something in a couple of words, that would be okay, but that this is too long and you'd be better. I think you might be better off with nothing if you can't get a simplified piece. Because again, you're not trying to advertise the business. People are trying to find you that already know what they want from you. So you know, to use taglines probably isn't very helpful in this situation. So I guess I'd
Okay.
look for some comment from the board on how to handle it. Do you want to allow them to do a shorter phrase in a similar style and situation, or would we prefer that they do not have any extra? It seems like they could use a little bit of help with home kitchen name.
Yeah.
And we explained what it is, because it's not a restaurant directly.
I would be open to that because yeah, I don't know necessarily the age of all the little sign panels that are on there, but you know, one says salon, one says nail spa, one says pizza. So, you know, the Prelude has a couple of things on there. So I think it's kind of consistent with the messaging on the sign. And, you know, but I would defer, you know, I don't know, is it prepared meals? You know, I don't know exactly how to be a little bit more succinct in describing what is, you know,
Right.
what might go there instead of the tagline.
Okay.
I think we can leave that. I'm willing to give them some flexibility on that, but we'll just say that 3 words or less to try and describe it. If you're really having trouble and you really think you want to do that, you can always come back to us and we can talk. You know, we're not going to hold your feet too coarsely on this, but I do think it's going to be helpful to do it a little more simply.
Yeah,
I agree.
And yep, and websites don't count as 3 words.
Yeah, we really frown on websites. I agree, Mark. I think that's an amenable way to handle this. You know, they're trying to open a business. We're trying to help. But from our experience with in these issues too, I think a shorter phrase under there would be both beneficial to you, your business, but also to the sign itself.
Okay. Appreciate the feedback.
Okay, so I would take a motion then to approve these 2 signs. Conditions on the first sign, they have the option to reverse out the color, the background, the color and the letter color to have a darker background and a light letter. And the second is that they will lower that sign on the building more in alignment with the other signs on that mansard roof facade.
Do you want to make a motion just for that? Do one sign at a time?
I'd rather just vote once, if that's okay.
That's fine. Okay.
And the second one is on the second sign, we would approve it with the second line of lettering to be 3 words or less. So I take that motion.
I move to approve as noted.
Second.
Okay, so I'll do the vote,
So,
please. Robert
board
Dermody?
members, my wife has just thought of a thing. What was yours? Home cooked meals. Would that work?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's clear.
Okay.
Okay.
Good job.
That was easy.
I have to have background help. Okay, so they will.
This is her show anyways. I'm just a facade, if you will.
Okay, so we'll vote, please. Robert Dermody,
Approve. Yes, as motioned.
Nelson Hammer,
Approve.
Chad Riley,
Approved.
Deborah Robinson,
Approved.
and the chair approves as noted. So again, could I confirm the address to send this to, Bryn?
Sure, it's 40 Plimpton Street, Boston.
Okay, great.
Thank you for your
very
time.
much.
Thanks, Bryn and Buren.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all the feedback and thanks for the support.
And to the wordsmith.
Yeah.
Right?
Wherever she
Thank
is.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is an informal review for informational purposes of a signage proposal for 540 Hillside Avenue, U.S. Storage Centers, self-storage. So Anna, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but you want to?
It's Anna Halleck from Pro Sign.
Okay, so you want to take us through what you guys are thinking here?
Yes, so there's an existing building right now, and they're actually going to be expanding on it for the front part. And the part that's going to be new is where the signs will be installed. They're requesting or asking for two channel letter sets on the building. This is because one of them would be facing Hillside Ave, and the other one would actually be facing the parking lot where the main entrance is going to be on that elevation, which is why they're requesting the second one. And they are also asking for a freestanding sign in the front. This building is set back. There's an existing building that's in front of it. So they're looking to have the ground sign just so that people aren't just passing by it, because they easily could since it's so far back. The square footage is a bit large due to the shape of the logo, which is used on their other stores. The building is pretty large, so when you look at it as a whole, it isn't as large, but the square footage does add up to those two wall signs, which is kind of why we wanted to have this discussion today. And then also they are requesting 3 signs, 2 for the wall and then 1 for the in front. So I believe having 3 signs maybe over the bylaw as well. So we kind of just wanted to get your feedback on the design, the locations, the numbers, and I think that's it.
Okay, yeah, this will throw you into a special permit process, but I think it was a good idea to just kind of talk through because the sign square footage limit is 32 square feet in this location and 1 sign. So, but we will kind of go through it here again the way we have with the others. So I'd like to start. Chad, do you want to start, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry, going back and forth and trying to get my orientation. So the west elevation is the one facing Hillside Ave. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So I would say just generally for this part of town, Hillside Ave is not really like a major throughway. I mean, people who live in town maybe cut through it, but by and large, the people who are on Hillside Ave are there purposefully and because they know where they are. So I am not really clear on why such prominent signage is needed. Generally speaking, as we were saying with the last applicant, the intent of the sign is to identify the business and help people find it. And the normal allowable 32 square feet is appropriate for most locations. There's a larger provision for when things are visible from the highway, but this is definitely not that situation. If I am open to a conversation about a pylon sign if the entrance is set back like it is, but I'm having a hard time seeing 3 signs, and the size I think for me would be a fairly significant concern, just given the more quiet secondary street location of it.
So Anna, is the existing building going to remain?
Correct. Yep.
Well,
And there's no existing signage on there now.
Because we saw this building when it was being designed, and they came to us with it, and I thought that we did an extensive landscaping discussion, but maybe it was just for the right of the driveway.
There is, I don't know if you're looking at that photo kind of where it like photoshops it there. I don't believe that shows the landscape or anything like that. There were plot plans that kind of pointed everything out, but I personally don't have like the detailed of that, of those.
Okay, well, I just wanted to confirm that building was staying, because the base of this building is up from the street.
Yep.
But that parking lot level for the storage building is 6 or 8 feet above street level, if I recall. And then
maybe more than that.
And then there's a 40-foot high building. And now we're putting signs on 2 corners of that building. It's really functioning more to me as advertising and being, I mean, you can see that A1 sign. I know you'd be able to see that from Rosemary Pool at night. And I'm not sure that's what the town wants. Because the other thing is this building is essentially open 24 hours a day, correct?
I believe so, yes.
So the light, that's going to be on all the time.
I guess that would be up to you because I think your bylaws are from 7 to 11 a.m. They shouldn't be on.
Unless you're open. If you're open, it can
Unless
be.
you're open. Yeah.
We might, if we get to the point where there's a special permit required, we might make that a condition that we turn it off at some point.
Okay.
So that's my.
Would it help at all if rather than the letters be front illumination, where like the front of the faces illuminate, if it was like a halo letter where it's like a soft glow around the letters? I don't know if that would make much of a difference. It's just not as like a prominent commercial sign. It kind of gives it a little bit of a softer look to it.
No, we always like that approach.
Yep.
Let me get some other input here. Deborah? I'm sorry, yeah. Bob, sorry.
Deborah can go if she's ready.
Yeah. Deborah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think it's too much signage for the location. It's kind of hard to tell, I guess, how much is going to be visible. I guess, Mark, you're saying based on the height that this will be above that, the building in front, that will be seeing the.
Oh, wait.
Both of these.
Well, my example is that in the wintertime, if you're driving down Central Avenue, say between Nahoyden and West Street, and you look to the right when the trees are no leaves on them, you see this red glowing element. It's the Center Automotive sign on Hillside, which is a similar situation, a building that's on a raised platform or parking lot, moderately tall, illuminated lettering. I just don't see a reason to have that sort of visibility for this kind of thing. So, but at this point, I really think more in the sense of the monument sign is probably useful because the building is set back.
Yeah, that's the one thing they were hoping they didn't have to change.
Yeah, but the building ones, I'd like to get them in compliance and maybe get it down to one, so then you have one extra sign. You're allowed to have a second sign facing a parking lot, but it's got to be significantly smaller than the main sign. Because, and the reality is that by the time people turn in here and drive up that hill, they know where they are.
Yeah.
So what is necessary there? So I guess those are my comments. Bob, you want to?
Yes, thanks. This is a tough site, but physically, but also signage-wise, as we're learning. And full disclosure, I don't work there constantly, but I'm in the building right next door at 570 Hillside Ave. I think it is the Needham Community Council. I think your sign down on the street is more important because if I understand how this building works, it's a storage facility that people who use it will come and retrieve their goods or put their goods. I don't expect a lot of drive-by business. So the signs on the building are superfluous. By the time you get up that hill, you either A, are in the wrong place or know where you're going. So while they may be visible from great distances, I don't dispute that, they won't be legible. And driving down Hillside, while not a main thoroughfare in Needham, people go pretty fast on that street. They're not going to see these. They're so high up, they would have to look for them. So that's a concern. I don't see the need for two. I am concerned about the pylon sign, which we'll get to in discussion about its location. I think that's the more important one. If someone's trying to get to their storage facility for the first time, they need to know where to turn. Yep. And if we're talking about, or do we want to stick on the building signs?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so let me make sure, I'm going to open up my document here, make sure I see where it's located.
It's about 10 feet from the driveway that goes to the building behind the community council.
Right. So my concern is that sign will indicate you turn up that driveway, which is not to the storage facility. I don't understand why it's not closer to your driveway.
Okay, I can speak to them about that. There's no foundation set yet, so we can definitely get it a couple feet more closer to that. Driveway.
It should be clear that if you see that sign, this is the driveway you go up, because the driveway that it's on the immediate southern side of that driveway is a pylon sign right now for the building up behind it that has several medical offices.
Okay. Yep.
So that would put signs on either side of that driveway, which I think would be confusing. So I don't have a problem with the sign. It's the location that I think you could benefit from relocating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just looking at Google Street View, there's also a bunch of trees right, more or less where the pylon sign would go, whereas a little closer to the driveway, it's just open grass area. So it gives it a little bit better visibility all around it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good point.
And we're talking about not a couple feet, but to the far, the red line between the A2 and that red line, that arrow that points up at the building, the other to the left of that line is probably what we think is more appropriate.
If I may, Mark, I think it should be as close to their driveway as it is to the
I
other.
agree, yes.
Yeah.
That would put it pretty close. There are some, you can check the bylaw again. There's some requirements on distance from the street and things. And
yeah, I think either way, it would be about 20 feet from the sidewalk. And then I just want to double check with them because normally they would put it closer to that road. So I don't know if there was a distinct reason why. But if it's not, it just happened to be put on the plot plan like that. They should have no issue moving it.
It will be, and as Chad just noted, if you look at the Google Street View, it's green grass there. So there's no, and there are no other signs to your benefit.
We did do a fairly extensive landscape review.
I was just about to mention that.
There we go.
Because I think they're clearing that out. They do. I do have the plans that just point out what they're going to be doing for the landscaping. Unfortunately, I just don't have the photoshopped image.
No, that's fine. But you can see here where you're putting that sign is right behind those trees. And if you move to the right a little bit, Chad, that's where you're going to be right in those trees. And
see the
if it's
elevation
visible at all, they're going to drive into this first driveway you're looking at, which is the wrong one. So yeah, I do think of moving it far over closer to your driveway is going to be beneficial.
Okay.
Has the landscaping been installed there yet?
That I'm not sure of. I haven't received any updated photos of the front or the plans.
If it has not been, then I think it should be relocated to allow the sign to be where all of us seem to be, where we want it to be, near the proposed driveway to your facility, rather than where you're proposing it now. And I also think that the sign facing Hillside Avenue is unnecessary. Once you go up the driveway, the sign that's facing south will tell everybody where you are.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that, actually. Sort of look at, this is their street front, so if you do want to look up and see what that is, that the sign would be there, and that the one facing the parking lot is just going to shine, is also a lot bigger. I would also like to see them down within the regulated size. It's just not a high speed area. And again, the monument sign is the key one from what we can see.
Yes.
And if you know that, the rest is sort of like, oh yeah, that is the building back there.
All right. I think I'll double check with the client to see. I'll let them know there's no need for the 2 wall signs, just to see if they prefer the one on the south or the west. Do you guys have a preference, or whichever one they would rather go with would be allowed?
I'd like to look at the site plan, I guess, picking up on Nellie's comment, but understanding Mark's concerns, like if you do drive up, which side of the building are you going to see? And it appears you would see the south.
I can drive there this week just to take some photos of when you are actually driving. And then I can have my designer Photoshop it on those photos so that we can kind of see which angle you see it at as you're driving through.
And if I can ask real quickly, is the sign the company's standard signage logo, colors, shape, size, all of that?
That's it. It's super unrealistic for signage and square footage, but that is their logo. So
okay, that's fine. I'm not judging. I'm just asking.
I did have the designer. I think we always start off with the bylaws, so we did make it, I believe, 32 square feet, which was very, very small due to the height of it, because that center is at an angle. So I'm not sure if they're going to want to go down to the 32.
Well, why don't you, I would suggest doing it for us to see, and then showing us what you'd like to do.
To show us side by side. So maybe not as large as the 74, which I think this is, but not as small as the 32. I can kind of show you what that looks like, and then maybe ask them if they can go down just a little bit just to compromise.
Yeah,
I would like to see something at 32, just for
Yeah.
reference.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, whether you use it or not, we'll discuss, but that's the baseline, so I think we need to start there.
You got
Yeah,
it.
and I think to Mark's point, if there was a major sign on the west elevation, which is the street view, and something small down near the actual entrance to the facility, more at a pedestrian scale, so that when you pulled into the driveway, just something to help visitors. I mean, obviously, once you've been there the first time, you're going to know where you're going, but maybe some things to help people understand where the main entrance is if they're there for the first time.
Okay, so if they did maybe like a smaller acrylic sign that's non-illuminated down closer to eye level, that could be considered their second sign?
Yeah, really something that's related to the entrances.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything? And I would take a look at the topography around that monument sign. If you can make it, if you can get a smaller base on it than the 1'10", that would be helpful. I mean, you're kind of in the actual limit's 3 feet, but we recognize at times that snow and some ground covering and topography sometimes limit that. So we have granted some exceptions.
Yeah, normally we say just for signage, we try to not put any lettering within the first 2 feet of the pylon. Just especially if you bring it closer to the driveway. It's not so much we're going to get 2 feet of snow, but the snow plows end up piling on top of it.
And
which is
that,
where we generally get that 2 feet.
I believe that location that Chad just shared with us on the street view, there's quite a slope there. So that will have to be taken into account.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's why they might have moved it so far away, because the slope wasn't as drastic from there.
Okay.
But a little bit of landscaping, I think they can solve that.
And then the last thing I suggest is that you've got, to have 2 signs, you're going to need a special permit. I would apply for the special permit on the building sign and not on, and then let the monument sign be your allotted sign, your by right sign, because that way you know you can get that, and that's the important one.
You can get that started. So
And the other
can
one
that
would-
happen at the same meeting, but I just did 2 separate applications?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
I would say a couple just more pointers about the monument sign itself is I would, in reviewing it, I would want to see a lot more information about the size of the letters. It all looks quite large at a kind of car scale to me. And if I'm reading it correctly, it looks like that white panel would be internally illuminated. And we tend to not approve white internally lit panels unless they're either kind of off color, like a light blue or light gray, or sometimes applying a film, because otherwise it just becomes this huge beacon of light that is shining out there. So if there's an alternate besides an internally illuminated white panel sign, and maybe something that the scale of all the lettering is just taken down a little bit, I would recommend seeing something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I could usually with these companies, it's the same logo, but they usually have like the inverted colors, or if they're only allowed black and white. So I can double check with their designer. And we can switch that up, because the self-storage, that's the one you can see. Their logo is a bit hard to read. So
yeah, and the illuminated letters is usually less a problem than just a big white blank panel of white with a few letters on it.
Just a giant light bulb, so that ends up to cast a lot of light out into the area.
generally the LEDs that we personally use, they do have a dimmer, but usually the customers end up maxing it all the way. So that definitely a darker background kind of calms that down. So
either film it or gray it. Yeah, some way we can tone that down. Yeah, and it would be helpful on the final to really get us dimensions on the letters, just so that we know what the size of the lettering is on both the signs. I think the wall sign you did, but
yeah, that one was more
add that
detailed.
info on the ground mounted sign so we get a sense of those as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that.
Okay, that's any other comments for?
No further comments, Mark.
Okay. All right, thank you, Anna.
Thanks.
Thanks for waiting.
so
We
much.
appreciate you waiting to let us do those other somewhat faster ones first. If we
Yeah.
were in person, those would have been 2 10-minute discussions, but
No worries.
this is a little cumbersome at times, but thank you for waiting.
I appreciate the informal. That's like a lot of information. So I will talk to my client, and then I'll see too if they can add in any of the landscaping, just so that you can kind of see it as what it's actually going to look like with the sign and everything.
Yeah, well, it's more important that you consider the landscaping when they place it, and there may be some larger elements that we asked for in that location that you don't want to do now. So
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, you got it. I appreciate it.
all right, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, so the last thing, look what we have, minutes. Who'd have thought?
Wow,
Thank you.
look at that.
Thank
Who'd
you.
have thought?
Rana.
Woohoo!
I know you all read them already.
I scanned through.
So any comments or changes or questions on the minutes?
Just a compliment. Thank you.
Well, thank Rana.
Yeah, well, I thank Rana. Yes, thank you.
I think she had to go
No
back
problem.
to the discussion.
I thank Mark and Elisa for helping me craft it. I gave them a very rough draft. So.
This is new territory for all of us.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, so I would take a motion to approve the minutes of June 15th, 2020.
So moved.
So seconded.
Okay, and I will do the vote. Robert Dermody,
Aye.
Nelson Hammer,
Aye.
Chad Riley,
Aye.
Deborah Robinson,
Aye.
and the chair votes yes. Now I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, and the vote, Robert Dermody,
Yes, I'm in favor of adjourning.
Nelson Hammer,
In favor.
Chad Riley,
In favor.
Deborah Robinson,
In favor.
and the chair votes yes. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
When's our next meeting?
2 weeks, July 27th. July 27th.
Okay, great. See y'all then.
Hey,
All
Bob.
right.
Yep.
Bob, what are we seeing on the screen here?
You
I
have
was
to
just about
guess.
to ask.
That's that prehistoric thing.
It's a horseshoe crab.
Crab. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's at the beach in front of my house. So.
Oh, love.
And I
nice.
apologize for not turning on my video tonight, but I had surgery on my chin this week, and I'm not looking too smiley. So big bandage and all. So I appreciate your patience.
I'm glad you didn't scare us.
Yeah.
We just needed your voice in your brain, so that was good.
Well, 2 out of 3.
I actually, it brings back memories of the time I was swimming on Crane's Beach and had never seen a horseshoe crab, and I'm underwater, and one scuttles by me, and I was out of there. I was on the beach in about 2 seconds.
They'll outlive us all.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thanks,
Good
everybody.
night, all.
Good
Thanks,
night,
Mara.
everybody.
Thanks.
Good night, Lisa.
Good night. You did a great job.
All right. Thanks, Clay.
You got it.